Hello and welcome to my channel. About 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks and a day ago, I came to a very important milestone here on the internet. I made 3 years officially as a content creator. In fact, I think my first video I ever uploaded was actually March 25th, but I started my account on March 14th, way back in 2021. Now, whilst this journey has not unfolded the way I thought it might, I think it's still crazy to be able to say, I've done a job like this for 3 years. And that would not have been possible without you, without people watching my videos, not even pressing subscribe, because let's be real, subscribers aren't what keep a channel alive. What keeps a channel alive here on YouTube, unless they decide to randomly just pull it down like they did to some creators last month. I don't know if you guys heard about that. There's a creator, Chimdi Ahizi. I think I'm saying her last name right. I'm not sure. No, I'm saying her first name right. But she did a great video about how unsafe most internet platforms are for creators, because they can just do wild things like ban your whole account, take your account down, and you have to go through all these steps to try and get things back. And so is it really safer to do this job versus doing something like working a 9-to-5? I'll link her video below, but she did a great video about it. And in the video, she talked about some creators who had their accounts just taken down. And on top of that, I had also been reading about, and by the way, the creators did eventually get their accounts back because there was no real reason that YouTube did. Like, it's very confusing why YouTube would make that decision. But a decision that's not confusing is when accounts lose their monetization. Now, you can lose that for a couple of different reasons, but specifically, I've been seeing videos about people losing their monetization because of watch time. Their watch time just isn't there, and so they stop being able to be monetized. And I think watch time needs to stay at about 4,000 hours a year, or 4,000, I'm not sure, but it's got to stay up to a certain amount. And I remember I was watching one video where a young woman was saying, my account was demonetized because my watch time went down. I wasn't posting enough. And, it's really unfortunate because it means that as a creator, you can't take a mental health break. You can't do ... because you run the risk of those metrics disappearing from your account, and you're no longer able to make money off of it until you build yourself back up. And I was thinking, I've taken a lot of mental health breaks. The longest one was from January to March of 2023. And really, it was really late in March. It was like March 25th. Oh, that's like a popular day for me. Anyway, so it was later in March, but that's about 3 months where I didn't post a single thing. I've taken, 30 days off here. Never taken like 5 or 6 months off, but I've taken time off. And I think when it comes down to it, it's, are people still watching the content? Is the content still flowing through via the algorithm? And if you do have videos that are like that up on your channels, then even if you take a break, you're going to still keep that monetization. And I'd also want to say that the reason why videos are pushed through the algorithm is because your audience watches them. The algorithm doesn't just decide, oh, I'm going to take this video and push it because I like her shirt. No, is her audience or his audience or their audience watching this content? If they are, how long are they watching it for? And if those two things are pleasing to the algorithm, then it's going to push the video out. And if you've ever been a creator here on YouTube, then you look at your analytics and it'll say, because of how people are responding, this video is getting greater reach. Now, if your audience decides we're not effing with this, then your videos might die. They just might not get any reach, any push at all, which is why creators will start new channels to give life to new projects so that they have a chance to live and to maybe see another audience and therefore fall back into good graces with the algorithm. That's been my experience. If you have a different experience, that's great. But in my experience, that is what kind of makes or breaks a video, is that initial audience pleased with it. And if they are pleased with it and the algorithm picks it up, there's no telling when the algorithm will stop running that video. And sometimes that's a good thing because it keeps those watch hours up. And so you keep that monetization. And sometimes, like in the case of some videos I've taken down, it's like, ugh, I'm tired of this thing getting circulated. I wish, you'd let it rest, algorithm, but it has its own ideas. Anyway, saying all that to say, I have never had to worry about being demonetized, knock on wood. I've never had to worry about a lot of things I see people worrying about. And it is completely because of the people who subscribe and support my channel, whether it's here, whether it's on Patreon. If it wasn't for you all, this whole venture, none of this would exist. I would have no reason to even upload because, just to be honest, I'm pretty sure I don't have a lot of value to any industries outside of this little bubble here on YouTube. And I'm not alone in knowing and understanding that. In fact, this past week, at the beginning of the week, there was a very, very famous content creator, podcaster, writer, producer who kind of said the same thing. And her name is Amanda Seales. Now, I know we probably all know who Amanda is. We're aware of her work. We're aware of her history when it comes to Hollywood and relationships and some controversy here and there. We're aware of her iconic roles that she's played, such as Tiffany Dubois on Insecure. And what we might not have been aware of is the fact that throughout Amanda's career, she's had a weird relationship with being invited to award shows where people tend to validate who they are proud of in the industry, specifically in Black spaces. And if you weren't around or you didn't get a chance to hear Amanda's kind of rant about that, I will play part of it for you now.
I just want to say something. If it wasn't for y'all, I would really think that I ain't doing shit. Because the industry I'm in does not recognize me. And to be clear, I'm speaking about the Black spaces in the industry I'm in. Because y'all know I don't give two damns about any of these other spaces. But the Black spaces is what I'm referring to. Which is largely in part why I've realized I need to shift out of this industry. I don't get invited to Essence Women in Hollywood. I've never been invited to the NAACP Image Awards. I've been nominated for an Image Award. Never been invited to the NAACP Image Awards. Never been honored at Black Girls Rock. I've hosted these events. You know what I'm saying? I literally hosted the BET Awards in 2020 in my house, and I was not invited to the BET Awards since. So I just want to thank y'all for always reminding me that I really am valuable, because the game and the industry that I've been in has never let me know.
So as you can see, she's highlighting some things that I wasn't aware of. I didn't know. And I mean, when she said that, I thought back and I was like, yeah, we don't really see Amanda on red carpets. She's not really included in those red carpet roundups. We don't really see her. Yeah, I guess that's right. And I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was because she wasn't being invited. I don't know. I don't know anything about the industry. So I just assumed maybe she wasn't the awards type. Maybe she didn't like that. So I think her speech, her rant was important because it highlighted something that her audience may not have been aware of. Now, of course, a well-known, established talent like Amanda saying basically the industry does not respect or value me. I'm not respected in Black spaces. It got some different pushback. Like I hinted at earlier, while we know Amanda has played some iconic roles, there's also been whisperings of controversy that she's faced throughout the years. And so a lot of people were like, well, that's what you get for being unlikable. Now, I recorded this video before I saw these articles pop up. It looks like Black media responded to Amanda yesterday, and she saw this response and responded on her Instagram. And I'm going to talk about that a little later. But it looks like there is a consensus amongst people who have dealt with her in the media. And the answer that they're giving her is, you know what you did, basically. Now, on the outside looking in, I don't know what she's done. All I know is the work that she's put out. But I think the difference here between, first of all, I couldn't imagine what it's like to have the kind of resume that she has and to be at a point where you've had the opportunity to meet so many people, you've had the opportunity to build so many relationships, and to have so many of them say the same thing about you. And then to not, I'm going to go into more detail later about her ability to be self-aware, because I think it's important to say to yourself first, what am I doing wrong when you're not getting accepted to whatever space? But I will just say that on the lack of likability tip, a lot of magazines and media came forward and said, hey, before you jump down our throats, because when Amanda made that speech, I'm sure a lot of her fans were like, answer for your crimes, Essence, answer for your crimes, BET. So I'm sure, they were getting a little bit of heat, and they responded back and said, listen, she knows what she did. She knows who she is. She knows how she's treated people. And as I'm going to say multiple times in this video, Black Hollywood is so small. These circles of people, it's so small. If you meet one person, they more likely know another person. Everything is relationship based. And so I do think it's unfortunate that if she knows she has damaged these relationships and there's really no way, there's no further to go, there's no other people to talk to or to work with or whatever. I think it's unfortunate that she would bring it to social media in the way that she did. But again, I'm not involved. I don't know anything. I will link these articles. They pretty much all say the same thing. Hey, Amanda girl, we feel for you. We would love it if you could be in our spaces, but you know what you did. And it would be interesting to see if this is resolved, because these companies did speak up. So I did want to add that to this video. That was a big response that a lot of people had. But I just finished watching Quiet on Set, the Nickelodeon documentary. And it's ironic that I bring that up while I'm talking about Amanda Seales, because she actually was a child actor on Nickelodeon back in my day, back when I used to watch Nickelodeon. I never watched an episode of iCarly, Cat and Sam, Victorious in my life. When I see those things come up on my TikTok, FYP, when I'm on TikTok, I'm like, who are these children? What is this? I never saw any of that stuff. So a lot of those things, I was familiar with all that, but with the first crew of all that, I was not. Anyway, I'm going to get into that in the video. But Amanda did start off on Nickelodeon, on My Brother and Me. And the reason why I bring Nickelodeon up and that documentary up is because if you've watched it, it's all about men in Hollywood who were behaving very badly. And what's worse, they were behaving very badly around children. And yet they were at the award shows. They were invited. They were celebrated in the spaces. And I know what people will say, they were very powerful men. They were very powerful white men. And we all know, especially like if you were around during the Me Too movement, you were cognizant and able to view the news at that time. We all know that powerful white men in Hollywood get away with evil things all the time. We all know that powerful men get away with evil things all the time. And Amanda is a woman, and she's also a Black woman. And so being unlikable is basically like, instead of a red A on your chest, you have a red U on your chest. So while I understand people saying, oh, well, hey, you're unlikable, that's why you're not at the party, we're not going to sit up here and act like Hollywood is a place of angels and saints, and those are the only people that are allowed in those spaces. Kanye was unlikable for years, and he kept being invited. It wasn't until he really went off the edge that people were like, all right. And even now, he still gets support. I'm just saying there's definitely a double standard there. There's definitely a little bit of misogyny there, but there's also truth there. And so that brings me to another point, which is the real value of your authenticity. I have said this since I started doing content, that a lot of the message that we give people around being authentic and being themselves and how important it is, especially when you get online, it needs to be metered and measured. It needs to be made very clear to people that authenticity is not worth the same for every person. There are some characteristics you have that are going to be read as bad or invaluable. And your authenticity, instead of opening the doors for you once you decide to become a public figure, you just being yourself might cause doors to close. A couple of weeks ago, back in February, I saw that YouTube was holding a creator collective event here in the city where I live. And I was really excited. I was like, oh, cool. I've always wondered what goes into their choices for like YouTube Black or creator collective, blah, 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 right? So I decided to DM the YouTube creator Instagram account just to get some extra information. And those people left me on red. Mm-hmm. And in my message that I sent them, I basically said, hey, I think I know the answer to this, but what are the requirements to be considered for the creator collective? You know, hey, I live in the area. I would have loved to come to an event. Like, how do we get in contact with? And when I said, I think I know the answer to this, the answer that I knew was, don't call us, we'll call you. If we, as a corporation, as an industry, as YouTube, if we feel that you are doing work that is valuable, then we'll call you. You will know when you're a part of the collective because you're here at the event. You'll know. And when I did my research on, I went to their page and saw the different creators that they put a spotlight on, or they say, hey, these are creators you should follow, dot, dot, dot. I saw that they were all creators pretty much who had over 100,000 subscribers. They were all creators who had a certain vibe to them. They were all creators who were either doing something that was extremely groundbreaking when it came to like the visual representation of their art online. And they were creators that I didn't necessarily fit into the same mold with. And so I pretty much answered my own question once I did a little bit of research. But here's the thing. I have been, since I started, 100% myself, for better or for worse. And if I found a problem with something, I've kept going. If I found, I can only do what I can do. I can only be me. And the tough part of your journey sometimes as a person is knowing that because you are you, because your path looks like this, those doors might not open for you. And so when it comes to Amanda, I have to say, before she hopped online to Rant, I do think a little bit of reflection would have been good. Like, hey, now sis, you know how this industry works. Especially Black spaces. I feel like those are the most, because there's less opportunity, because we tend to not have as many projects, or that's what I hear when it comes to Hollywood. When you get in, the relationships you make, the people that you know, it's an extremely small circle. And so it's very, your relationships, it's very powerful. And one of the things that I was like, oh, I probably always will probably never fit in. Because I know on this channel, I've made some critical content about Tyler Perry. And if you notice, if you look at Netflix's Black lead Instagram, whenever they do anything in Hollywood to celebrate one of his movies, anybody comes out. Anybody who's a part of Black Hollywood comes out. And so I would imagine, unless you have a close relationship with him or you approve of his content, whatever, you probably, if you've publicly spoken against anything he's done, you probably wouldn't be invited to those events. Which brings me to Monique. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit frustrated that every time we hear from Monique, she's talking about how Oprah and Tyler didn't pay her for Precious almost 20 years ago. And the reason why it's upsetting is because when's the last time you saw a Monique movie? When's the last time you saw her in a new project? Like Taraji, she can complain about the money she's not making, etc. I get it. But Taraji gonna make another movie. My thing is, be self-aware, call things out, be open about what you're going through. That's fine. But keep working. Keep trying new stuff. Like, don't just sit at home and complain about it. Like, be putting out new stuff, new projects. Like, be trying. And I thought about Monique, and I thought about the fact that, she came in on the wave of Black cinema, working with Black writers, Black producers, etc. That's probably where she'd like to stay. And so it's very hard to have an issue with the big wigs, the big dogs, the people who carry the most weight, and it not be fixed in a way that she approves of, and to expect her to still keep working. And so just to take it back to Amanda, I think it's very much the same thing. Hollywood is just so small. And the relationships that she had and the bridges that she built up when it comes to these spaces, if we are to believe the stories that we've heard, there's probably bridges that have been burned. And so that means when it comes to parties, when it comes to these occasions, she is locked out. I want to add that a couple of months ago, last year, I decided to watch Insecure for the first time ever. I know. When it was originally on TV, I did not watch it because I felt like Issa was spying on me. A lot of the things that she went through, from being a teacher in a poor neighborhood in Los Angeles to some of the guys she dated, to the issues she had. When I saw there was an episode where Tiffany had a baby shower and Issa and her friend were not allowed to help plan it, I was like, I have a story. And I told it over on my Patreon, but let's just say I've been through a similar experience where somebody was like, yeah, I'm having a baby shower, but you're too chaotic to help. So I'll just tell you that I don't need anything. And when you show up, everything will be done. And it might hurt your feelings a little bit, but oh well. So I've had that happen. Several things they went through on that show. I was like, oh my God, I have been in that situation. So, and when it was on, I was like going through that stuff. So it was really hard for me to look at it as entertainment. But when I went back and rewatched it, I should talk about Insecure, because everything Issa Rae did was so monumentally important for the Black millennial experience. It's not even funny. Like I just, it's not even funny. But anyway, after I watched Insecure, I went on over to the Issa Rae, like to her YouTube channel, which is like a shrine. And sometimes she still posts on that channel. And it is now Hooray Media, like headquarters for, the things that she puts out here on YouTube. But I scrolled down all the way to the beginning. Like I went all the way back in time. And I saw, I looked at some of the old Awkward Black Girl stuff. And I remember when me and my friends used to send each other the videos and watch it. And I had my head shaved at the same time. And so people would be like, she's just like you. So I was like, okay. But I also saw, and I did not know this, I didn't know Amanda had a show with Issa on that channel. I didn't know that she worked with her. I didn't know how much Issa Rae had done. I didn't know how much that group of actors and that, like, I saw Awkward Black Girl and then I didn't really stick around like for whatever else was going on. I don't know what I was watching on YouTube at that time, but it wasn't what they were doing, and they were doing so much. So anyway, I was not aware that Amanda had a little web series with her called Get Your Life. I thought the title was funny because I remember back then, Get Your Life, have several seats, like it's very Tamar Braxton coded. I was not aware that she had done that with them. I was not aware of a lot of stuff. And, to see her go from that to playing Tiffany on Insecure, you have to know and assume that her and Issa had a really tight creative relationship. And if you're privy to social media at all, you know that none of the Insecure cast follows Amanda on Instagram and vice versa. Well, I think Derek, the guy who played her husband, he follows her. But something went down. And, like I said, Hollywood is just such a small place. And you kind of can't afford, especially for Black actors and Black talent, and you kind of can't afford something to go down and to still expect to have the same access to things. In my opinion, anyway. I wanted to talk about this because, like I said, I recently celebrated an anniversary. And there were times where I said it all last year. I was like, all I want to do is get to March, and that's going to be the end. Or I would be like, I'm getting to the end of this year, December 2023. Don't expect to hear from me after. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but like an old Baptist preacher. But yeah, I always looked at my journey as it has to have an end date. And I would be thinking about it that way. And then I would get a message from somebody and they would say, well, hey, how can we support you when you're not over here anymore? Well, hey, how can I watch? Well, where else will you be posted? Well, what are you? And I'm like, huh? You still want to watch something? Really? Oh, okay. Well, I guess I could do a little more. And it dawned on me recently that there are two very different worlds when it comes to creating as a public figure. Yes, there is the industry. There is the world where a lot of people show up and they hope to be launched into. You want to go to the red carpets. You want to put on a beautiful dress. You want to have a free meal. You want to get a swag bag. Fun, right? And then there's the world that very much exists where you're supported by people, everyday people. No, it's not a big, talented, bigwig producer, but it is a person who watches your content religiously, and without them, you wouldn't have a platform. No, it's not a person who can get you an invite to ... but it is somebody who will let you know that, hey, I really liked that. Thank you for explaining that to me that way. One of the hard things to do when you step into a field that has so much potential and there's experiences you want to have, but you're not having them. one of the hard things to do is to be able to decenter what you think is valuable and compare it to what is actually valuable. And I'm not saying that it's not valuable to be invited to these places and to be recognized, especially if you have Amanda's resume, because she puts good work out into the world. However you feel about her as a person, you can't deny that she does that. There is some good work she puts out in the world, and she is a tireless educator, speaker, interview. Like, she has unlimited energy, and I think it should be recognized. And she did say something. She said, I don't care about other spaces. I just care about Black spaces. And I think that that's unfortunate because, like I said earlier, Black Hollywood is so small. And I can very much see her being awarded maybe things in other spaces. Sometimes going where you're loved does sometimes mean expanding the circle of who you allow to say, hey, you're doing a good job. But I say that to say it's not invalid to want a seat at the table. It's not invalid to want a trophy. It's not invalid to want an award, but it's not the only measure of success. It's not the only measure that what you did in your time contributing had value. Something I had to come to grips with or just recognize is that, I've been doing this for 3 years and, hasn't happened. However, Stephanie, you were able to say that you worked on the internet for 3 years, for better or for worse. You were able to pay for your bills, your rent, your niceties, your travel. You were able to connect with people. And when you had experiences in your life that were tougher, even though people let me know, hey, it's tough to support you right now when you're talking about these, there were still people who said, oh, hey, well, I'm here if you want to talk. That's a priceless circumstance. And I think as creatives, as people, there has this come a realization that, yes, it is nice to be celebrated. Yes, it is nice to get the awards. Yes, it would be nice one day to get a lovely platinum play button. But if that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean your time was invaluable. I'll always think it is interesting the way that Amanda so freely expresses herself no matter how big her platform is. Because after she made that speech, it quickly went viral in a lot of different places. And then it popped up on the Shade Room, which is my absolute nightmare. Yep, that's one of my nightmares. Because the comment sections are, they are a mess. And people were definitely having their opinions, which caused Amanda to have to come back and say, the point of me saying that was not to be so upset with the industry and to let y'all see that, but the point was to make sure I thank you. That it's because of the people. It's because of everyday people who keep saying, hey, we'd like to hear what you have to say about this. That's why I have a job. That's why I do what I do. It wasn't to put energy on in a different space, but maybe my delivery was off. And I think what's interesting about your delivery being off, because that's happened to me several times, is that sometimes you don't know it, but you are also relaying another message. And you don't know it until people say, well, hey, this is what I got from what you said. And sometimes it's not at all what you meant. Sometimes you're like, whoa, that I don't know where you came from. That was a projection. But sometimes, like in Amanda's case, I could see and feel the pain and the disappointment of not being included. And so I thought it was nice that she came back and said, hey, I didn't mean to jump all over the industry. That wasn't my point. My point was to thank y'all, but it wasn't, I don't feel like it was the truth. I feel like she did mean to jump all over the industry. She did mean to say, hey, where was my invite? Especially when I've done A, B, C, D. Where is my, where is it? And I don't know. I don't know if it'll come. I don't know if that will have, I don't know if that part of her career will change. Because like I said, it's a small space. And if you have burned those bridges in that space, it can be hard to come back from. And I will also add this. A couple months ago, Lenny Kravitz came out and said that he has never been invited to like the BET Awards, or he's never done anything in those spaces. And I said at the time, sometimes you can't be surprised when you're not in certain spaces because they made their code very clear. So like in Lenny's case, I don't care, the historical roots of Black music as far as rock and roll is concerned. When you look at those spaces and you look at the artists and people that they edify and lift up, he does not fit that bill. And so it hurts, but it's also like you can't be surprised. And I got a little bit of pushback from that. People were saying, are you saying there's only one way to be Black then? Only one way to be a Black artist? No, there's only one way to be a Black artist celebrated in those spaces. And they show us over and over and over again. And somebody was talking about this Amanda situation. They were basically saying the same thing. Elite Black spaces have, and I'm not saying BET is one, but most likely the NAACP Image Awards is probably thought of that way. They have a code. They have a code for who they'll let in, who they will allow, etc. And when you act outside of that code, you cannot be surprised when you're not inside the building, when they're giving out the awards. Is it right? No. But it is how, is it right? I don't know. It's how they conduct business. And so I think the answer is broadening your scope when it comes to who you will allow to bestow awards and recognition on you. And also doing exactly what she did, which is saying thank you to the group of people who are really just as important. They might have different ways of showing you their favor and their recognition, but they are just as important as the industry that's handing out these awards and all these fancy experiences. Because I'll say this too, once people get those awards, that is over. Then they're back to the people. They're back making projects to see if people will buy into it. They're back going on social media and making new content. Okay, you guys like this. This is it. The awards may endure for a night, but the people who support you and want to see your content and want to see you do well, their impact on your life and on your work endures forever. We remember artists who may not have been celebrated in their heyday way past the time that they perished from this earth, not because of the people who didn't give them attention when they were alive, but because of the people who held on to what they did and told other generations about it for years and years to come. So yeah, I probably got something a little bit different from Amanda's rant, but I wanted to share it with y'all. And so I did. That is how I felt about that. Once again, I would like to say thank you for 3 years of this experience, whatever it's been. And I think the biggest lesson that I've taken away from the 3 years is that I don't have to limit myself to 3 more. As long as I have a community of people that want to hear what I have to say, want to watch the content, then I can continue to produce. And something hit me on the head the other day. And it wasn't just one of my puppy's paws, because both of them have hands. They just all day long. But I was like, don't limit yourself to just doing one thing either. If you want to pop out with a kids entertainment channel, if you want to do maybe not that, but don't just see what happens. Start looking at content as more of just widen your scope a little bit. Widen your scope. And that will definitely help to lessen frustration when those times come where you would like to see yourself validated and appreciated and maybe awarded, and your messages go unanswered. So that is one thing that I want to keep in mind as well. All right, that is the end of this video. Please feel free to share not only what you feel about this, but have you ever had to work in an industry or in a job where you feel underappreciated? How did you handle it? What did you do? What made you stay, or did you leave? I always think that that's a really interesting conversation to have, because one thing people will say about content creators or actors or whatever is they'll be like, oh, please, you want a little award? Oh, God, you're so spoiled. And I'm just like, a lot of people want to be told, hey, we see you, you're doing a good job. It's not a weird thing to want, but I think people have a hard time feeling empathy for those that they feel are doing fantastical things already. And so, it doesn't mean that empathy shouldn't be felt, but I see where they're coming from, where they're like, really? You need a trophy too? You get to sit at home all day and make podcasts and you need a trophy? And it's like, Yeah, I want to be, there's a whole industry where people sit at home and make podcasts. I'd like to know that they heard mine and they thought it was good. It is perfectly fine to want validation, but you can't have that need for validation run your whole life. That's what I've learned. Anyway, please feel free to share what you've learned in the description box below. And as always, thank you for watching.